Lo que decía Guillermo acerca de los
As
web
Guillermo
services.
said, for web services, they are everywhere and we have to face them all the time. So it's good to have an alternative, for instance, to be able to uh, reduce the dependency of a third party web service, particularly when I'm thinking about making my unit tests. So, what is it to do a mock? This is to visualize the response I'll get from a web service. And what's the purpose of this? Well, to try and have full availability of our web service, that is, the response of the web service, without depending on the original web service. Also, it allows me to have a scheduled response. When I'm creating my unit tests, I would like to have a particular response, uh, and in that way, I'll be able to program my response, or the response that could be useful for my unit test. And that's um, a way of being able to isolate that unit for my unit testing. Now, how can I do this? Well, we're going to be using in our practice class, we're going to use soft UI, which from the real service will be able to copy, make a virtual copy of the service. And that will have the same structure, but it will allow us either through codes or through files, just copying the response of the from the real to the virtual service, emulate the answer. So we'll be able to have the same characteristics, the same features as the real service to obtain the same behavior, but with the possibility of having full control of the service. That is, we're always going to have it available because it's going to be local. In our practice class, you're going to see that. And we're also going to be able to define what answer I want from the service, how I want it to respond. So in our practical class, we're going to have this possibility of our applications to consult not the real service, but the virtual copy in the same way it would be done with a real service. We're going to see it in detail in the practical class, and we're going to see how to generate it and how to consume it from GeneXus. Now, the best practices I'd like to share with you are the following. When we create virtualized services, it's good to think how real our virtualized service will be. I mean, how similar to the real copy will it be? Because if I have to do something very real, it's going to take me a long time in some cases, and it may no longer be feasible. And that's why we believe that it's good to think. I mean, once I've defined the reality I need, to create a base and then expand it, add complexity to that virtualized service as I move on as necessary. And then lastly, when I virtualize a service, it has to be a team asset, because sometimes a virtualized service for a unit testing, say the test team could use it to test a module instead of depending on the service. So in case I want to make tests and the service has failed, then I simply have to configure the answers for my tests, and I could go on. And then I would like simply to point out that mocking is not specific or only for web services. We are mentioning it because it's something that we're going to be using more and more, and we think it's very good. However, it is also applied to other realities.